Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, 1987. Learn lessons about life and teenage love in the 1980s with this coming-of-age John Haynes story. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes, 1987 at online booksellers everywhere. Two weeks ago, 4 Chicago teenagers allegedly shot and killed a female Chicago police officer after participating in a violent crime spree. All news footage used in this video is under fair use of United States copyright law of 1976 and is used in conjunction with my commentary.
We continue to follow tonight's developing story. 4 men now charged in the murder of a Chicago police officer.
Suspects are being held without bail, accused of killing Ariana Preston during a violent crime spree. WGN's Christine Flores is live at police headquarters tonight with more on that. Christine.
Good evening. Those 4 suspects now face first-degree murder charges, and like we've learned today, that is far from being the only charge that the suspects face. Well, meanwhile, the department is remembering 24-year-old Ariana Preston, who for the past 3 years worked out of the 5th District.
We wanted to help create a better future for Chicago, but the incomprehensible actions of 4 offenders took that future from her, and the loss to the city is tremendous.
Interim Police Superintendent Eric Carter speaking highly today of beloved Chicago police officer Ariana Preston. Travell Breland, Joseph Brooks, Jaquan Buchanan, and Jalen Frazier are charged in her shooting death, a violent crime spree that court documents show had Officer Preston as the 6th victim.
That morning, they had committed several other armed robberies and a motor vehicle theft.
Police say the suspects were in a stolen red Kia Forte when they shot Preston outside of her home in Avalon Park.
Defendant Brooks stated that all the defendants were armed and that they ran up to victim 6, Officer Preston. He further admitted that the officer reached for her gun and that he shot first towards her.
We know that at least 3 of the 4 offenders exited the vehicle, and we believe that at least 2 of the offenders fired their weapon.
A nearby shot spotter picked up 9 rounds, but a source tells WGN there were no available beat cars to dispatch. About 20 minutes later, Preston's own Apple Watch dialed 911 after wrongly detecting a car crash. Preston was found more than 30 minutes after the shooting on the ground with a gunshot wound to her face and neck. Police say evidence that included boasting about the crime spree to friends led to a standoff situation in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood on Monday and the eventual arrest of the suspects.
I want to thank the community for its help in bringing closure to and justice to Ariana, and thanks to our detectives from Area 2 and the officers who worked tirelessly to identify and apprehend these individuals.
According to court documents, Officer Preston's gun was stolen at the scene, and Jalen Frazier admitted to taking that gun and then selling it. However, the whereabouts of that weapon at this time are unknown. The next court date for all suspects is May 30th. Reporting live from police headquarters, Christine Flores, WGN News.
Now, in this incident, 4 teenagers, Travell Breland, Joseph Brooks, Jaquan Buchanan, and an unnamed 16-year-old allegedly went on a robbery spree all across Chicago until they ran into off-duty officer Ariana Preston. Now, Ariana Preston was allegedly returning from her home after a shift as a Chicago police officer, and the 24-year-old officer had a confrontation with these 4 individuals. And after having this confrontation with these 4 individuals who had already mugged 3 individuals and stolen a red Kia Forte, she was confronting these individuals, and there was a shootout between them, and Officer Ariana Preston, who was off duty and in uniform, was shot and killed by these 4 individuals who again allegedly wound up taking her gun and her badge and went away and continued participating in more criminal action. Now, these 4 individuals were eventually captured by police, and they were all basically charged with first-degree murder. Now, the police see this as an isolated incident as related to the alleged murder of Officer Ariana Preston. But when I take a critical examination of the alleged murder of Officer Ariana Preston, it fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And it's clear to me that these 4 Pookies are basically the kind of males who I would classify as children of the corn. And when I look at the behaviors of all 4 of these individuals, they show me that they all never really grew up with any sort of structure or order from a family. And the reason why all 4 of these individuals do not have any of the structure or order of a family is because 60 years in America ago, we wound up breaking up the entire family unit because many of the wealthy wanted to create a more consumer-based economy, and they allowed feminist culture to be able to restructure the family as a matriarchal unit. And as the family was restructured into a matriarchal unit, it was believed by corporate America and the wealthy that a woman could raise a boy to become a man without ever having a father in the home. Unfortunately, without that father in the home to lead the family and give the boys structure and order, what we have seen over the last 60 years is a whole lot of these children basically growing up like stalks without any sort of order and structure. And as these children have grown up to become thorns and briars in the society, they have not borne the fruit of becoming productive boys who grow up to become productive men. No, they have grown up to become thorns and briars that choke their communities by terrorizing them the way these 4 Pookies allegedly were terrorizing their community. And as these children of the corn have grown up to become wild men, the women who were supposed to be the ones who were supposed to be the authority figures in the community have not been able to control these males who have been running amok in the community. And that really is shown here as related to the passing of Officer Ariana Preston. 24-year-old Officer Ariana Preston was supposed to be the kind of female authority figure that was supposed to be respected and regarded in the community. And this woman, who was accomplished and successful as an officer, she was doing very well as a member of the Chicago PD and was working on getting her master's degree to move up in the department, and was 1 week away from marching with her classmates. Unfortunately, she will not be able to march with her classmates on May 13th, which is the day I'm recording this video, because sadly she lost her life 2 weeks before as related to this confrontation with these individuals in the street near her home. And that is the saddest part about this whole incident. Here is a woman who was working towards becoming a moving up further in the ranks as a police officer, was a very beautiful and intelligent sister, and her whole life was cut short due to a confrontation with these children of the corn. And these children of the corn are a major problem that is getting worse, because what happened here is we're just at the start of the spring and summer in Chicago, and this incident comes about 2 weeks after an incident where a mob of teenagers basically walked into downtown Chicago and caused chaos and havoc. And if these 2 incidents are a tip of the iceberg, it shows the real serious problem we have as related to the children of the corn, who are basically making life a living hell for many Chicago residents. And they're making life a living hell for Chicago residents because these young teenagers have never been raised to respect any sort of authority. They have never been taught to respect any sort of order. And these individuals are basically out here looking to go out here and participate in anything that they please, and are willing to go and participate in chaos and havoc, like the robbery spree that these individuals wound up participating in before they allegedly took the life of Officer Ariana Preston. And again, because these males never respected the female authority figures that raised them, they didn't respect Officer Ariana Preston's authority, and that really shows how badly the family has broken down over the last 60 years, because there was a time when boys would go out here and at least respect the authority of law enforcement, but these males had absolutely no respect or regard for law enforcement. They had no respect or regard for authority, and this is why they allegedly wound up taking the life of this young sister and left her dead in the street, and took her gun as some sort of trophy. And then after taking that trophy, because it was hot, wound up allegedly selling her gun. Again, these Pookies have no regard for anybody at all, and that's what's really troubling about this incident. It shows us how ruthless these children of the corn are, but these children of the corn are a byproduct of the feminist movement, who told us that we did not need a man to help a boy become a man, and also wanted to go out here and have the woman work. And as the child was sitting there imbibing media like gangster rap and imbibing thug culture from Madison Avenue in Hollywood, has grown up like a stalk, and instead of becoming the consumer that the elite want him to be, have become a weapon and is waging war on the very communities that they are a part of. And as these urban terrorists have learned to have absolutely no regard for people or their property, they have been wreaking havoc more and more every year. And sadly, America's whole response to these males and females who are the children of the corn is to take no action. And sadly, people like Ariana Preston are losing their lives, as these individuals have been wreaking havoc all across the country. And sadly, as at the case of these 4 teenagers, they are basically screwed at this point, because if they are convicted for taking the life of this police officer, along with the multiple felonies they've participated in, they have gone from having a life on the streets to a life in the penitentiary with no parole. Because when you take the life of a member of law enforcement, you are basically guaranteed to wind up in prison for the rest of your life, and you will go from going out here and running wild to being under the structure and order of the CO. And as you're under the order of the CO, these guys who were big-time terrorists in the street will turn into big-time bitches as they run into the lifers like Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, Rodney, and Laquan. And as they run into the lifers like Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Laquan, and they show them the pecking order of the penitentiary, these little teenage punks are going to go from boys to becoming men who are going to be really in serious crisis, as their tight ends are turned into wide receivers, and they are traded for Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light, packets of Taster's Choice coffee, peppermint gump balls, Fritos chips, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand lemon cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, marshmallow beeps, packets of soy sauce, and other assorted commissary, as these 4 so-called thugs are taken to the penitentiary and their tight ends are turned into wide receivers, they are going to be spit roasted, double stacked, and having their hair braided, and they will see that they're not as tough as they think they are. Yeah, on the streets, these guys were playing the bad boy, but in the penitentiary, they are going to be crying like bitches. And that's what's sadly going to happen to these 4 beta males. They are going to get turned out because the criminal justice system is, whenever they see somebody who goes out here and takes the life of a member of law enforcement, they go out here and bring the hammer down on those on the individuals. And in the case of these 4 Pookies, we are going to see all 4 of them basically get life in prison if the pattern of the criminal justice system works and these individuals are convicted, because these individuals, they show that they have no respect for the law, no respect for authority as related to a police officer confronting them, and basically just show how, again, ruthless they are, but that all of that comes from them being children of the corn. And the big problem with America is we don't want to acknowledge the man crisis that creates the children of the corn, or want to admit that we have a real serious problem as related to the complete collapse of the family. Because the reason why we've got these feral mobs of children running around is because we basically have destroyed the family unit. And because there is no family unit, there is no structure for the children to follow, like God's order, because under God's order, there is a man to assert authority and enforce order, and that man being able to assert authority and enforce order is how we get responsible, conscientious, and productive men, and not men in crisis who go out here and become thorns and briars that choke the life out of their communities, like these individuals have done in Chicago, which has led to because the actions of individuals like this have led to the closings of businesses like Walmarts and Targets, taking away employment from others, because when even law enforcement cannot go out here and stop any of this chaos, it's a real serious problem. This is the problem many of the politicians in Chicago, like the new mayor, don't understand. We have to demonize this type of behavior because these type of individuals, they are a clear and present danger. And if you don't demonize the behavior of the children of the corn, you're going to encourage them to participate in more urban terrorism. And as they participate in more urban terrorism, they will go out here and not only, if they see themselves getting away with the murder of one police officer, they will go out here and look to murder more. And that's something that, again, flies over the head of many of the leftist politicians with their policies like bail reform and other assorted policies. They don't understand that you need order in a society. And if you go out here and encourage beta males to participate in their chaos, you're not going to have any order in society. You're going to get more individuals like this. And these children of the corn you're seeing, like who participate in incidents like we saw in Chicago about 4 weeks ago, and this incident right now, these sadly are a tip of the iceberg as related to the chaos of the children of the corn. And sadly, we have politicians who are inept and are not capable of resetting order. And instead of them understanding the clear and present danger of the children of the corn, what they're doing is trying to make excuses for them. As somebody who has been doing these type of videos for about 4 or 5 years, and I talked about the children of the corn way back as related to the riots of Freddie Gray, and I've been talking about the man crisis since about 2016 or so, I see how this situation is getting worse, and sadly many politicians are not taking it as seriously as I am, because I understand that this is the tip of the iceberg as related to these children of the corn. And if these children of the corn are not dealt with by setting hard boundaries, what they're going to do is participate in more chaos. and they're going to participate in more chaos because the leadership does not set a hard boundary as related to their behavior. And because they don't set a boundary, these individuals do not learn to respect authority. And that was what was shown here as related to the murder of 24-year-old Officer Ariana Preston. These individuals had no respect or regard for her badge. They had no respect for her as an officer of the law. They had no respect for her as a part of law enforcement. They saw no respect for the law because the leaders in Chicago have no respect for the law. And again, this is a dangerous sign as related to America, because if there is no respect for law, you have no order. And this encourages vigilantes like Daniel Penny here in New York to start taking action. And that just again shows a complete breakdown of a society. And the reason why we are having this breakdown in society is because the wealthy decided to wanted to break the family because they wanted to make more money. And now that they are out here creating this whole consumer base based on women and gynocentric spending, it has created a deterioration of the family. And without the family to make the foundation of a nation, our whole society is slowly crumbling, and it's crumbling, and people are disregarding it because they see these as isolated incidents and not a real serious problem as a complete collapse of the family. Because without the family, there is nobody there to teach a respect for authority, teach respect of others, teach people to regard the feelings and also the persons of other people. There's nobody there to teach, and sadly, with nobody there to teach, the nation is in bad shape because, again, this is a tip of the iceberg incident, and that's why, and this is just May of the year. Again, we are not even near summer with school being out, and if the children of the corn are participating in this kind of chaos, we are in some serious trouble because it shows us things are getting worse as related to this country. We have a serious man crisis all across this country. We have a serious family crisis all across this country. And we need to get serious about dealing with this whole situation, because if we don't get any sort of structure and order in place, these children of the corn are going to go out here and choke the life out of the country and make it unsafe for anybody to be able to move around in this country. Now, if you want to learn more about what leads to individuals like this becoming and growing up to become dysfunctional, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also pick up The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to learn why many women wind up raising boys to become dysfunctional like this, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. Now, this was a video requested by one of my viewers, and if you want to request a video, and I know something about that subject, you can send a donation to the Cash App by clicking the link in the description box, and if I think I can make a video on that subject, I will make that video for you. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Godbreaker. The man who rules the world takes on the Asgardian god of thunder in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes, Godbreaker in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.